So my name's Jonathan. I'm the Operations Manager for the Forth Rivers Trust.
And I'm Sandra Stewart. I work with Jonathan as a contractor with the Forth Rivers Trust on the Allan Water Project.
We're here today at the Greenloaning Wetlands Project, one of about 6 projects in the Allan Water catchment, looking at natural flood management, general wetland enhancement, wildlife, sort of biodiversity enhancement, basically enhancing the overall catchment for wildlife, communities and everything else in between. The Allan Water Project first started about 7 years ago, and it's funded by Scottish Government money to look at how we can use natural flood management techniques to improve and protect communities downstream. So far, I think this year and the last sort of 5-6 years, we've delivered a number of projects all throughout the catchment to try and start helping that process using natural techniques to improve or slow down the rate of runoff into the river, the main stem of the Allan Water. And Sandra's been delivering a project here at Greenloaning, which is one of about 6 that we delivered last year to help slow the flow and start improving wetlands within the catchment.
Yeah, so I mean this whole project, this is the Greenloaning project, so we're just standing here on the edge of the site. Natural flood management is the main aim of the Allan Water Project, and the key is working with all the landowners and the farmers up and down the catchment, because without them we can't get projects like the Greenloaning project. This is one of several we've got on the Allan Water, and it's really, really important to work closely with, have a good working relationship with our farmers, because if we don't have that, we don't get any work done on the ground.
And this project, you know, it was all about blocking drainage ditches that were coming down into the Allan Water, so slowing the flow, getting the water moving out over the floodplain, dropping sediment out, protecting the water course downstream, and just making the overall area sort of more wetter, slowing the flow for protection, flood protection downstream for communities.
When the Victorians put in the railway, instead of having, 20 or 26 bridges, they would have had to do, because the river meandered as rivers do on a floodplain, they canalised the whole river. So it's canalised and embanked, so it can't do its natural function. So all the things that we're working on, all the projects that we'll be talking about, are all to try and revive the river. We can't completely renaturalise it because the railway's still there, but this is one of the projects that we're working on.
Yeah. And the catchment today, you know, it's like every other catchment in Scotland. There's multiple landowners that we work with. Here it's Blackford Estate, and throughout all the different projects that we've delivered, you know, they've got multiple different landowners, and ultimately, you know, if it wasn't for the landowner being on board and engaged with the process and trying to help the environment, trying to help the river, projects like this probably just would not happen. So it's key to try and engage with the landowner early doors, you know, start throwing around ideas like we done here, to get something on the go.
No, absolutely, Jonathan, because, you know, having a good relationship with with the farmers right along the Allan Water, and we're building that relationship all the time, and unless you've got the buy-in with the farmers and the landowners, we'll not get any work done.
No, 100%. And, you know, for an example, at this project, you know, we've got land use all around us. We've got ex-forestry here. There was a small wetland, not as big as it is just now, after we've completed the works. We've got field drains coming in. You know, they were all trying to move the water off the landscape as quick as possible. But as the land uses have changed, the farm isn't really using this area anymore. And the farmer has said, well, actually, you know, we can do something unique here. We can change how we use this landscape for the future, which will also benefit the river and the communities downstream by slowing the flow. And it benefits everything from, you know, salmon in the river, trout, eel, lamprey, all of those kind of things, but also the wading birds. So we've seen a snipe earlier on, we've seen herons, you know, what else have we seen?
Oh, yeah.
We've seen loads of different
there was
wading
curlew
birds.
came in here last year that we hadn't seen before.
So it's doing its job, it's improving the wider area, but this is just one small project within the wider catchment to improve it for wildlife and natural flood management overall.
And you're right, because at the very end, where it actually goes back into the Allan Water, the water's totally clear.
Yeah.
You know, there's no sediment running that wee bit just at the end of the big seasonal pool.
Yeah.
It's incredibly clear to what it used to be. Yeah.
Shall we go and have a look at some of them?
I think we should. Yeah.
Let's go and have a look.
Right.
So this is the first scrape within the series of scrapes for the Allan Water Project and the Greenloaning Project.
That's right. There was 2 seasonal pools here already, and under the natural flood management project that we did here in the Greenloaning, we created another 4 scrapes.
And the scrapes are very shallow, aren't they?
Yeah, they're sort of edges, very, very shallow edges, going into about half a metre deep. And so that the wading birds, because as well as for natural flood management holding water, great for wading birds as well. And for their chicks to puddle about on the edges.
And it's not just about slowing the flow, that's one key benefit of this project, but water scarcity played a big role within 2022. SEPA had issued a number of significant water scarcities, stopped abstraction in a couple of catchments, and our hope would be that by slowing the flow, keeping more water on the floodplains, water on the landscape, it would eventually trickle out into the main river and be more resilient in the future ultimately. I think you would need a lot of these scrapes, a lot of these natural flood management sort of techniques through the catchment to make that better for water resilience in the river.
Absolutely, and although it was a really dry summer, 2 of these scrapes held water, and none of the seasonal pools did. The scrapes did though, so this works ideally for a whole multi-benefits, and we're hoping to do some more scrapes elsewhere. We've got plans. We've always got plans, Jonathan.
And that's key, doing lots of these up and down the catchment, everybody working together, all the landowners working together to get the benefit ultimately. But the benefit also helps wildlife as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
As well as the Greenloaning Wetland Project, we also installed a number of leaky dams. This is one of them here.
Yep. So leaky dams, really simple. The water can still flow through. This is the natural sort of flow of the water, continues as it always does. In times of flood, because we've got these posts and the trunks across the way, it just holds the water back. So as the water rises, it holds it back, and because we're sitting in a kind of bowl, and we do it on a bowl or a clook or something, and that holds the water back. And it may only hold it back for a tiny wee bit at a time, but it could be enough to stop a flood further downstream.
I suppose, the way that this landscape sort of is defined, it's kind of creating a temporary pool upstream of this leaky dam, but at the same time, it still allows the water to naturally flow under it and allow fish and other wildlife to get upstream as well. So it doesn't stop or impact on migration, so long as the leaky dam's put in right, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's just above on the banks, And sometimes we've just got one here, and we've put 10 in across the catchment, but we're aiming to maybe go back and put some in a chain on a catchment. So we've got not just one on the catchment, might have 3 or 4 in a chain. Here it's not appropriate to do that, but in other places it is, and we might go back and put some more on. And like all the rest of the projects we're doing, we're kind of monitoring where's best to put them and what effect they actually have.
I mean, leaky dams, they're a key part of natural flood management. They're recreating natural processes. Ideally, you would have woodlands lining these little burns, all the burns within a catchment, and naturally trees will drop branches, and they might fall in. They might create these leaky dams naturally, but as land uses have taken place within the catchment, trees have been felled, for other things. It's us trying to recreate the natural process in a managed landscape.
Yeah, and along with this, what we've started doing is we've done riparian planting, and that's just tree planting or along a water course. And the combination of both, we'll have to put these in because the trees aren't, if you're just planting it, they're not big enough to create this. But in the future, we won't need these. Hopefully nature will do it itself.
And we were also kind of trying to pick key points within the catchment that would provide the most benefit for areas downstream. Like for example here, you've got the land here and a higher section on either side. By putting this leaky dam in, we're going to create a bigger pool upstream compared to maybe further down where you don't have this sort of pinch point of the burn naturally.
And also natural flood management really we can only really do in the tributaries and mostly in the tributaries and upstream. Once the river gets really big and wide, there's not much you can do. So they're ideal for the upstream and the catchment.
The other good thing about these leaky dams is we sourced all the wood local from
it's
the
from,
landowner.
From the land owner.
They were doing some felling of conifers elsewhere, and we were able to actually buy some of their wood off them to deliver some of this work. So it was nice to source the wood locally. Didn't have many carbon miles to it. It was all in the surrounding landscape, and
And these have worked quite well. We've actually seen them hold a bit of water back. When you can't really see it today because of the snow, but there has been a bit of retention of the water when there's been a bit of it's not a total flood, but high rainfall. They've held the water back a bit. So it's worked well. It's been good. Yeah.